Hey friend, welcome to the Halfway to Dead podcast. I'm your host, Jen Lovell. Listen, you and I have reached that age where we are done with the bullshit. We know that midlife is our chance to flip the script and experience life on our own terms. It's time to reconnect with our higher selves and reclaim our inner peace. Are you ready with an open heart and an open mind? Awesome, you're in the right place. Hop in and ride shotgun with me on this midlife spiritual journey. Hey, everybody. I'm back. I know I've been gone for a couple of weeks. Listen, you guys, I went to Egypt and it was exhausting, but amazing. More on that later. But today I interviewed Regan Caruthers. So she's got a book called Tragic Magic, and I'm going to read right off of her back cover, because this really does a good job of telling you guys what she's all about. Regan seems to have it all: a successful career, a supportive husband, and the stability of a conventional life. But beneath the surface, she was disconnected, haunted by chaotic memories of her mentally ill mother, absent father, and violent stepfather. Educated at an unconventional school celebrating meditation, Tai Chi, and divine love, Regan was deeply connected to her inner magic. However, the turbulence of her childhood led her to bury her gifts and seek safety in societal norms. A dramatic spiritual awakening at age 27 reconnected Regan with the intuitive wisdom of her youth. However, the challenges of adulthood, strain, extramarital affair, and the demands of single motherhood distracted her from her path. Tragic Magic is Regan's raw and inspiring account of unraveling a life built for survival, confronting her deepest wounds, and returning to the teachings of her youth. This story of healing and transformation reveals how, even in our darkest times, we can rediscover the magic within. So Regan and I go over her story, the book. We dive deeper into this relationship with her mother and how she was able to reframe and heal from some of the trauma of her childhood. We also dig into how she does not consider herself a Christian, but she loves herself some Jesus. So we get into the logistics of all that. And we talk about so many really cool things. So you guys, let's get to know Regan together. Thanks for being here, Regan. I'm so excited about this today. Normally, we always start with hearing about someone's spiritual journey and their story. That is literally what your book is. So, we don't need to, let's just get into this book, because it is a memoir, you guys, about her life. And I told you a little bit in the intro about Regan and all the things going on, but I would love to hear from you more about this spiritual journey.
Well, yeah, newsflash, we're all on one.
Of course we are.
Whether we're conscious of it
big moment
or not.
Yeah.
But first of all, thank you for having me. What I would say is it really was informed by two primary influences. That was my mother and the incredibly powerful, unusual, yet tragic figure she was in my life, and the choice that she made very early at the age of 3, where she enrolled me in a school where we meditated every day and we did Tai Chi for gym. We began.
Oh, that's amazing. Because this was back in the day. This wasn't happening a lot.
This was 1970. So there was, some things happening in the counterculture, I guess. So we would begin in morning assembly singing devotional songs that were also very self-affirming, because Maxwell Maltz, who wrote the book Psycho-Cybernetics that birthed the positive psychology movement, was on the board of my school. So a lot of the pedagogy and what we experienced were informed by his research. He was a plastic surgeon who just observed that when he would fix disfigurement and other things, some people would really develop a healthy sense of self, and others were as if they were still grossly disfigured. And he began to understand that the story you tell yourself is what you'll end up experiencing, right? So we would sing songs that were celebrating the power that we had to create whatever we wanted. So it had this deeply spiritual component founded by women who all had advanced degrees. So I was also, reading Shakespeare and learning algebra and Latin and French. So it wasn't just, food.
No, it was well-rounded.
Yeah, it wasn't just food for my spirit. And for whatever reason, I think because of my inheritance biologically, as a little girl, I just saw and heard things that the average person didn't. I could hear the inner dialogue of another human being. You don't want to have access to that, first of all. But anyway, and I would see entities.
Oh, wait, so you were just sitting, and as a little girl, you could kind of hear what someone was thinking. Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, that can be confusing for a kid.
Well, and overwhelming. I mean, I saw a lot of what I would just characterize as dark energy in my home because, you know, my mother was incredibly brilliant and she could radiate a quality of love I've never known since. And it had a polar quality to it. I mean, she diagnosed herself as a manic depressive in 61, literally pulled the diagnosis out of the air.
Yeah, came up with it to give the doctors, as it said in the book. Yeah, you guys got to read about that. So as a child, you were just saying you saw these dark entities. So there's one in particular that was coming to you. And how did you tell everyone how you kind of, because you turned yourself off as a child then? You were like,
at the age of 9.
Not
at the age of 9. Yeah. So this entity, for lack of a better word, he was a man, but, you know, not of this quality of flesh.
No, not of this world. And he was kind of scary.
He was, not all the time. But on this particular day, I was down in the basement and I was doing gymnastics and dancing. And he was on top of my washing machine, like in this fiery throne. He looked quite demonic. And the amount of terror that I felt in my, like, I don't even have words for how scary that was. And I ran up the basement step and I screamed out loud, "This all needs to stop," or something like that. But it was a command and the veil came down. I no longer saw what I saw. I no longer heard what I heard. And I spent from 9 to 27.
7, yes.
Just trying to find safety.
Yeah. Yep. You were in survival mode that whole time.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And not aware of it. I mean, I had so much capacity, like as you read about just my parents, like I had so much capacity coupled with these tools that had unconsciously imprinted on me from my school. So
yes,
it's not like I was just trying to be normal, whatever that word means. Really.
Whatever that is.
And found,
I do,
particularly so I always had, even with the veil down, I had this relationship with a quality of inner guidance. It had an audible quality to it. There was a felt sense of it. I was conscious of that. And when I listened to its point of view and did what it said, good things happened. So, at 13, the inner voice said, repeat the 9th grade, because I was more than a year ahead of myself. And that was a turning point in my adolescent life when I got my way.
So you still had this inner knowing. You were still connected with your intuition, but you had turned a lot of the other clairs, if you will, off. Fast forward to 27, because then at 27, boom, you had kind of an awakening.
Not kind of.
Yeah.
Yeah. No.
Well, kind of a lot. And it was very all of a sudden.
It was.
Yeah. So tell my friends about it.
Yeah. I was a corporate climber in the academic publishing industry. At that time, I was 27, managing, $12 million in revenue for a publicly traded company, just climbing, thinking that, that was gonna.
No, you were successful by all of the world's, you were checking the boxes.
Oh yeah.
You were corporate, you were married, you were having kids. Like
no,
you
not
had
yet.
it all.
No kid yet.
No kids.
No
kids yet. Okay.
Yeah. And so I was at a national sales meeting in San Francisco, and my childhood best friend, who was my safe haven, like her home was my safe haven when there was violence or craziness. I'd just run up the street. She came to my meeting because she wanted to interview for a job in the city. And I'm like, yeah, stay in my suite. I'll take care of you. And she brings the book, Return to Love by Marianne Williamson, as a gift to me. I'm fighting the good fight at work. There's so much dysfunction and corruption and bad behavior. And I'm in the same room as the company execs. Anyway, and they were just, Anyway, it was a very toxic environment. She brings the book. I open it up and it's like Christ consciousness, this and that. And I just look at her as I'm smoking my Marlboro Light down in a shot of vodka. And I said, I love you and I don't have time for this. And off I would go, to lead my next
You're like, cool. Like, I'll get to this later. Right now,
well,
I'm busy.
I just didn't have any interest or room. So I don't want people to think that prior to this awakening experience that I was, quote unquote, on a conscious path. I had a lot of innate conscious awareness just because of who I am and my soul history and my parents and all of that and my schooling. So anyway, I just wanted a decent night's sleep. I was so stressed out. She went into into town to party, and I was like, no, I just need to sleep. And I don't know what time it was. It was the middle of the night. And I my eyes were still closed, but I awakened from my sleep with a very familiar sense of terror, the terror that I felt that I used to feel as a kid. And I knew someone was in my room. I hadn't even opened my eyes yet, but I knew someone was there. And I opened my eyes, and sure enough, the same entity that used to terrorize me as a kid is at the foot of my bed. And his arms are crossed, and it's like he's evaluating me. And I just sat up in bed and said, oh, it's you. It's only you. I'm not afraid of you. And I went back to sleep.
Okay.
Why that was my response, perhaps it was because I was being so courageous at work. I don't know. That's just how it happened. And when I woke up the next morning, all I could feel was unconditional love and the love of God, like completely. I understood everything. I had this direct access to the divine, and all I wanted to do was reach my mom. And I couldn't. And I never had trouble reaching my mother. The only person I could reach by phone, I tried to call my dad, I tried to call my husband, was my stepfather, who was this.
So tell me, what would pop into your head to call him?
Well, because he lived with my mother. I was trying to reach her.
You were just trying to find your mom. Okay, that makes sense. Because I was thinking, what came through that said call your abuser, right? But no, you were looking for your mom. And so he picked up the phone. Yeah.
And so I just, in this completely awakened samadhi state, I told him how much I loved him. And, kind of like Charlie Kirk's wife yesterday, I was just like, I forgive you. And I meant it. There was nothing I was holding other than this profundity of love. And he drops the phone. And he comes back, a few seconds later, and he's kind of disoriented. And he said, well, Blonde Beauty, I don't have an explanation for this, but a golden eagle just landed on the crabapple tree in the backyard. So it was at the top of this tree in my childhood home that was, such a scary place. Not all the time, but often enough. And then he comes back again after dropping the phone. I kind of hear it banging around. And he said, Regan, there's a red fox at the base of the tree looking up at the seagull. So he has Comanche bloodlines. And as you may know, in the indigenous tradition, the eagle is God. It is the animal symbol of the divine. And the red fox symbolizes a noble messenger. So from that moment on, that energetic transmission of love to him, that was 30 years ago. And he continues to be a kind and gentle man.
Wow. How powerful is that? Yeah. Okay, so you guys stayed in touch.
I support him financially. Okay. My husband goes and mows the lawn of my childhood home. My mother's long dead, but every day that he is kind and loving, he's burning karma. He's balancing karma. And so he's in his mid-80s. I always thought my mother was going to live a long time and he was going to die young. Well, shows you what I know.
Nope. It never works that way. You're always like, that one's not going to last long, and they last forever. And so, okay. So you have this big awakening. Moving forward from that day, after the phone calls, you go back home. What's life look like for you after that?
Looks the same, right?
Looks exactly the same. Did you just feel...
My consciousness is different, but nothing else is. My perception of everything is different. I conceived my son Connor the day I got back from my meeting. The moment of conception, I knew his spirit had entered my body, and I greeted him.
Isn't that amazing?
I returned to the Unity Church, which is a metaphysical interpretation of Christianity. And I don't know.
Okay. Yeah.
Anyway, the founders of my grade school were all scholars of Charles Fillmore. And I had I probably drove by Forsyth School and the church where it all began 1,000 times. And this particular day, I said to my husband, we were driving through Forest Park, and there it was. I said, I need to return there. And within, I don't know, just a few months, I'm leading a youth group in the original schoolhouse of
where you went to school.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, so full circle.
Yeah, and then it brought me, I was, became staff of Heart Math, a few years after that, moved to California to actually be part of the Heart Math Institute as staff there. Consciousness that I awakened with lasted for about 3 years, but there was an initiation, a dark night of the soul, to use Joseph Campbell's words, that happens when you are truly awakened. Everything that doesn't align in your system with that energy has to leave. And so that process of awakening, if I had confided in a therapist, I would have been institutionalized like my mother had been. But I intuitively knew I wasn't crazy. And kind of like Luke Skywalker in the first Star Wars, where he's training to be a Jedi and he's in those dark tunnels confronting Darth Vader and other incredibly scary moments in time as he's training, because the point of all of this is to be able to embody the light and the love of God in the presence of darkness. So I was trained to do that it took about 2 years. And I would just wake up in the middle of the night, again, surrounded by demonic energy, just like happened to me as a child. I was pulled out of my body against my will. I learned.
Yeah, because you used to get pulled out and you would see yourself on the bed surrounded by all these entities. And that's how you learned you could, I don't know what we call it, astral travel or what. Okay. So that over time, if I'm remembering correctly, once the darkness was gone, you knew how you could pull yourself in and out of your body routinely when you wanted to, right?
Yeah, I didn't do it very often, because once you understand your eternal nature and you have the direct experience of it, you don't need to play with that. In fact, I would caution anybody not to. But the whole point of it was, could I embody love and radiate divine love to these demons? And once I was able to, they stopped visiting.
Yeah, they were done.
I was done.
Yeah.
Not they were done. I was done.
So for you, you felt like that was part of your training, part of the lesson of your awakening?
Well, it's for anybody.
Right.
The whole reason we're here is to embody divine love. And by the way, if you haven't noticed, it's a pretty dark place.
It is a dark place. And that's what I'm saying. So for you, it was these entities surrounding your bed. For my friends listening, it could appear differently for them, right? Like the darkness will come through and you, like you said, we have to keep our vibration high enough to emit that love, that divine love to everyone.
Well, and that there's a chemicalization that happens, right? Again, if you're, for whatever reason, graced with that quality of energetic connection, all the other aspects of you that energetically are not vibrating aligned with that, purge. And that's, like I say in the book, a lot of indigenous shamans, when they come into mental institutions, what they see are spiritual leaders, healers who can't integrate the call.
Yeah. Like they're here with such a higher purpose, but they just can't integrate and function with it, right? It's just almost too overwhelming.
Well, yeah. And they are connected to oppositional fields of energy, right? And the whole purpose is to utilize the energy of love to integrate all of that. That's what my mother couldn't do. Yet early in her life, before the accumulation of all the trauma took hold, she was asked by the Red Cross to represent the United States to post-war Europe at the age of 16, did extraordinary things.
Yes. Just so you guys know, her mom was amazing. Like, honestly, all your parents were amazing, right? As you went back, and this is all in the, part of the journey too for her. I mean, your mom dated the King of Jordan. She spoke, 9 languages or something? Like, her mom had a lot going on, you guys. She was this amazing woman, but struggled with her shadow side too, in a way that she couldn't really win. Again.
She just couldn't energetically self-regulate, and she lacked discipline. She introduced me to her guru at the age of 7, but did she stick with it? No, but she was attracted to all the right things. She just...
Yeah, and like she found one of her husbands in the mental institution, right?
Well, my stepdad, who was such a source of violence and pain for me. Yeah.
That's okay. And that's where she found him. So, I mean, not always the best decisions.
Well, that's why, when I wrote the sentence in, in my draft that growing up with my mother was tragic magic. I was like, I think that's what I'm going to call it.
That sounds like a book title. Yes. Yeah. Because, all right, I want to dig more into your mom here in a minute, but just for everyone listening, because we're in the midst of this story. So after 27, you have this spiritual awakening. You go on to have children, marriage, divorce, remarriage. You're still living this really big, wonderful life, right? Did anything hit you when you were closer to midlife? Because a lot of my listeners, as you got older, did things change or not really? Was it just at 27 that was that really big moment?
Because after that, right? I mean, I needed to leave Heart Math just a year after I started there because my husband announces we're running out of money. And I knew what that meant. He had no plan at that point. I mean, he sort of did, but
you had to take on the burden of
but that meant that I needed to go back to corporate life. Yeah. And that broke my heart because I had an infant. But anyway, I ended up, an executive in Silicon Valley, in ed tech. And, I still had my practice, but not in any disciplined way. I was a single mother commuting.
You were too busy.
Commuting 3 hours one way to work.
That's insane. No, that's too much. No.
And it really wasn't until a man I had known my whole career came into my life in a different way a couple of years after I divorced. And he was the only one really in my whole life who had any interest in taking care of me and said so. Like I was breaking down one evening, just the stress. I'm responsible for revenue for venture funded startup, driving 6 hours a day as a single mom. My ex-husband is bankrupt, so he's not helping at all. And my boyfriend at the time, who's now my husband, just looked at me and said, why don't you let me take care of you? And my immediate response, excuse my French, was fuck no. Like I didn't have any trust that a man,
No, I was going to say that had to be very hard for someone who had been in survival mode, had known that you take care of yourself, right? No one else is going to. I have to take care of myself. For you to trust another human being that says, no, I got this. Like, I'll take care of you.
And what I would, tell your listeners, women in midlife, most of us have had to be masculine for most of the time.
Mm-hmm.
And that leads to all sorts of issues for us as women. We're, not in touch with our essential nature. And so for me, again, I was very deliberate in terms of trying to attract what I now have. And I wrote it all down, every quality that I wanted this man to embody. And I prayed that list every day. And I put the list under my bed and slept on top of it. Anyway,
So you were heavy manifesting. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So here he comes. And, I was self-aware enough to know that my immediate reaction to his generosity was a trauma response. Like I knew that. I had taught that. I had developed curriculum, taught courses. Anyway, and I just looked at him and I said, thank you. You've given me a lot to think about. And it took 3 months. So anyway, what I would tell your listeners, the key to all of this, and it's not a popular thing that I say, is discipline. It's discipline of practice. Like if you have had a moment of divine revelation, wonderful, so glad. Maybe you can just, if you haven't, have a gratitude practice, right? Like deepen the felt sense of gratitude within your system because the energetics of that are very healthy. But we need to tend. All of us have trauma. It's not a single person and so by midlife, think of all of what's accumulated, all that we haven't tended. Traditional talk therapy, newsflash, doesn't help. It just fortifies all the neural architecture you have around your wounding. You need something else. Mm-hmm. You need those energetic breakthroughs. And the only way to create the energetic breakthrough is meditation, sitting in the quiet.
Meditation. We say that all the time on here. I know, sitting in the quiet and doing all this work, all this damn work. So I want to go back. Okay, you guys, I have questions. I have so many questions for her. We're going to get into it because I don't want you to just hear her story. I want you to hear how she came out the other side and get tips for like how we can do this too. I want to start with, because one of the things I connected with was this whole mom thing, because I had a lot of the same stuff going on in my household. There was some mental illness there, and also bringing in an abusive stepfather. A lot of things resonated. So Regan has something on our website And she has this little ode to her mom on one page. Okay, so let me just read a little bit of this. And then I want to just have you tell me more logistically how you worked through this, how you came out the other side, because I know a lot of my listeners are struggling with, and it may not be with a mom, it may be with someone else, but reconciling childhood trauma and who they feel was responsible for it.
Sure.
Okay. All right. So here's what it says. By bearing witness to you, by loving you, by being so deeply loved and neglected and brutalized by you, I learned the absolute necessity and power of self-regulation. I learned this because if I was going to survive you, I needed to know how to separate myself, my response, and my sense of self from the massive emotional swings that ran through you. So this is Regan talking to her mom, okay, who we've already talked about was this amazing woman. She had a deep intuition and connection. She was this beautiful woman. I mean, physically beautiful, you guys. Movie starish is the look. It was what I'm getting in my mind. And with dignitaries from all over the world, just loving on her. But she ends up bringing an abusive stepdad into your life. And there was what I'm feeling, or what I got from the book and from you is you just didn't know which mom you were getting maybe day to day, which I connect with. So you just don't know, is this my mom? Is she more manic today? Is everything amazing and wonderful and everything's going to be a great day? Or is this not that day? Are things going to get thrown around? Is there going to be yelling? Is there going to be instability? And I think as kids, we learn, like you said, we have to learn to intuitively feel what's happening in the room immediately. That's survival mode. Because then we, I think, try and figure out how to stabilize the room, the home we live in, the people around us. And as kids, we don't even know really how to do that, but we try and figure out how to do that. And for me, that cultivated in a sense of humor and lightening up a room in that way, in whatever way I felt like I could. So what was that for you, both as a child and then as you came to grips with it, to where you've reframed and now you just have these beautiful memories with mom, right? How did we get there, Regan? Because there's a lot of us working on getting there right now in midlife.
Yeah, it's a process. It's a process. One of the things that I learned to do, and I would really recommend this. It was incredibly powerful. I didn't read it somewhere. Maybe I did. But look at the developmental stages, birth to 3, 3 to 7, 7 to 11. Just take chunks of time and get radically honest about what you experienced, what you remembered, not just the traumatic stuff, the good stuff too. But as you consciously unpack those developmental stages, you get honest about what you experienced. Because so often we compartmentalize or we try to make things okay somehow. And before you can get to forgiveness, you got to get honest.
Okay.
So what I did is I looked at those stages and I consciously then unpacked not just what I experienced, but what was imprinted. What did I then choose to believe? Because it is a choice, whether we're conscious of it or not. What did I believe as a consequence of what I had known? Right. So birth to 3 for me was you can't trust anybody. You got to do this all yourself. Yeah. All right. So you do all that unpacking. That takes time. And then take each developmental stage, build a little altar for yourself, find a photo of you at that age, then get quiet, connect to the energy of love however you can, maybe through a positive memory, whatever, just connect to that energy. And then
to the positive energy. You don't want to connect with the trauma.
No, just anything. You're just grabbing ideally divine love, like that quality of love, but you may not know how to do that yet. So just connect with the most profound feeling of love you've known through a memory, re-experience it, connect to that energy, then eyes closed, see yourself at that age and just say, I'm here. And this is what I'm bringing. I'm here. I'm witnessing. I'm acknowledging all that you've gone through, and I'm not here to change your mind about what you've chose to believe because of it. I'm just here to acknowledge you and to love you.
Yep.
And you
just give the child that age the support that they didn't maybe feel back then.
Yeah, it's like that inner parenting, but with a quality of energy, and that's what I teach people first, how to access and bring that in. So that begins to do this inner alchemy, this inner transmutation. And once these wounded parts of you begin to feel safer, begin to feel like, oh, wow, I am loved, I am safe, because you're bringing that energy, right? Then the perception of all the villains, right, all the things begin to change because you've changed, you've alchemized this, and you begin then to have more compassion. And again, this is my process. Like, again,
no,
you have more compassion. Perhaps you can connect to a quality of empathy, knowing that the mother or the perceived abuse, the abuser, imagine the trauma they have. That's why they behaved the way they did, because of what happened to them.
So did you ever go back and kind of visualize meditation like your mom or your abuser as a child?
No, I knew my mother had no filter, so I knew all about the terrible things that she had known.
Right. No, I don't know if you went back and like tried to give love to them too in meditation.
No. I was just tending to myself. So that's one element of it. And the more you can spend time in meditation connecting to the energy of love, what I call like the Christ consciousness, right? Then your capacity to forgive, to truly forgive, becomes accessible. And forgiveness is not like making something okay. It's not justifying it. In fact, it's more the opposite. It's like what you did was so not okay that I'm choosing not to be connected to it anymore. But those energetic bolt cutters is unconditional love. But you can't get there if you're not first acknowledging to yourself the truth of what you'd known.
Yes, because what I hear you saying is we've got to acknowledge it all, feel it all, because we've covered it up in our bodies for so long, right? We have to feel it, which is the part that sucks. Because I tell them all the time, it's going to suck for a minute, right? Because you got to bring the crap up and you got to feel all the things that you refused to feel at those ages, right? So you have to go through and feel all that before you can even start feeling that lightness, right? Before you can even replace that with divine love. Because like you said, we got to get that back out of our bodies. We got to get that back out so that we have room for all this divine love.
Yeah, I mean,
right?
like Jesus said, you can't put new wine in old wineskins, right? That was a parable.
No.
For, you can't embody that quality of energy in this old traumatized container. It won't hold it.
Yeah.
It can't.
No, it won't. Okay, we got to dig into this. Regan, we got to dig into this because, listen, I don't know if you guys are watching a video of this or not, but she's got her little cross earrings on. Okay. You were not raised in Christianity. To be clear, you guys, you heard she was going to school. She was meditating. She was doing all these things. You were not raised in Christianity, correct?
No, I was not.
No. And
I'm still not a Christian. I love Jesus, but I do not identify as a Christian.
This has been a huge struggle I've been hearing from a lot of my friends listening with me here too, because a lot of people in midlife start going through this spiritual deconstruction process. Mm-hmm. Now, if you weren't raised in a strict religion, and I'm talking about any of them, not just Christianity, you're already more open, right, to learning it. But for those that have to deconstruct it first, it is very hard to reframe Jesus, Yeshua, whatever we're called, whatever you connect with, you guys. It's really hard to find that new relationship. So I would love to hear more from you because I think that you framed it in a really cool way that might be helpful for those listening right now, because you dove in, not as someone raised as Christian, you dove into his teachings from a different perspective, right, than we get in a traditional church upbringing like I had. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. You were able to dive in and read it differently. So I would love to hear more of your thoughts on our friend Jesus/Yeshua. What do you got, girl?
Yeah, I love him so much. So, he taught the law of one. He was here to teach love, right? And the essence of what he taught was love your God with all your heart, love your neighbor as yourself, and love your enemies. Most of what Christians have gone through really isn't more of an emphasis on the teachings of Paul, right? Paul, if I would really suggest that people learn more the history. Anyway, Paul was somebody that was murdering the early followers of Yeshua, didn't know Jesus, didn't walk with Jesus, right? Had a self-proclaimed awakening on the road to Damascus, and then made up what we now think of as Christian doctrine, right? Substitutionary atonement, blood sacrifice, right? That Yeshua died for your sins, and that somehow just that very act, you are now, redeemed. Jesus never said any of it.
No, he didn't.
Paul did. So Paul was trying to get people converted to Christianity, right? Jesus was a Jew, and a very strict one. As a Nazarene, like he was very strict, and he was confronting the corruption of the temple. He was against animal sacrifice, all of it. And so then Paul comes up with all these rules. You have to say that he's your Lord and Savior. So I would first recommend that people actually separate what Jesus taught from the rest. That's step one.
Yes.
Step two, read all the Gospels that didn't make it into the big book. So people don't realize that what they know of as the New Testament reflects an editorial process, right? People decided what was going to be the Word of God and what wasn't. And just like today, I'm more interested in the information that our government or our public health agencies are trying to censor. Like that's where the good stuff is.
Right.
So go and look at those Gospels, those sacraments, those people who followed Yeshua, right, early. And what,
just to be clear, we're talking about the Book of Enoch, Mary Magdalene. Just list a few off for us.
The Gospel of Thomas is probably the most important one. Mary Magdalene, certainly. Yeah. So what I would recommend people get, it's called the New Testament.
The New Testament. Okay.
And
we'll put a link in.
It integrates all the Gnostic Gospels and other sacraments that the early church wanted to make sure you didn't read.
Yeah.
And a group of scholars who decided what was going to be in the New Testament. There's a good amount of commentary and context that's given before you go to read the Gospel of Thomas, just understanding what we know through scholarship, right? And I think, when you do that and you really dig in, then you find your way to understanding that what Yeshua was trying to teach you how to do is what he learned to do, right? So from 12 to 30, he's missing, right? He's MIA.
He's on a big old spiritual pilgrimage.
In India.
In India, Egypt. He's all over the place.
And there's lots in the historical record.
All the ways of all the religions.
There's a lot in the historical record about, sacred places. So anyway, just like most things, we are miseducated.
Yeah. Because did I hear that you've actually gone back and you've read some of it from the original translation?
Well, you've got to read the Aramaic, right? So Neil Klotz, a scholar, he's a Sufi, but he has done a lot of translation, really looking directly from Aramaic, which is the language that Yeshua spoke, to English, right? As opposed to going from Aramaic to Greek to Latin to English. Because anytime there's that translation shift, you're losing.
You're losing so much.
Aramaic is a very different language. And, traditional Christianity is quite patriarchal, this father this and father that. Well, in Aramaic, it means abun. Doesn't mean father as a masculine. It actually means both feminine and masculine integrated, like this cosmic.
Well, of course. And when we edited everything, we ditched the feminine side, of course.
It's all on purpose.
Yeah. It was all politics. It's been around a long, long time.
Yeah. And, 300 years after Yeshua was killed, Constantine, who was the emperor for the Roman Empire, and he had been converted to Christianity. And he was like, okay, enough of all of this different point of views about who this man was and what he taught. And he calls on the bishops of basically the Catholic Church and said, okay, you are to gather and proclaim to the empire who he was and what he taught. And if you all can agree and come out with this unified proclamation, I'm going to make Christianity illegal again.
So they got pressured into making a checklist and getting on the same page. right? And okay, let's ditch all of these teachings because, yeah, we don't want to deal with all that.
Well, it's not even
That's
we don't want to deal, right? It's, the most important in my mind and heart thing that Yeshua is ever known to have said is credited in Luke 17:21. The kingdom of God is within you.
Yeah. It's talking directly to that divine love we all have as a little piece of divine God inside of us. And they didn't want us to know we could directly connect with the divine, with God.
Yeah, no, you needed an intermediary. You needed a priest.
No, you need some dude, right? Some priest to tell you how many times to say this or that or what to do to be okay. We already know what to do to be okay and to be in God's love, right? We don't really need that kind of direction. So, but that controlled us, right? That was controlling. So that's what we did. So if you guys are reframing, as I know many of you are right now, we need to go back to what Yeshua actually said and actually did, because those are what he wanted us to follow, right? The what would Jesus do business. That's what we were looking for, not the rest, because the rest was kind of, I don't know, edited. And like you said, up by people who didn't even know him or learn his teachings.
And, don't you think if Yeshua died for your sins on the cross as he's taking maybe his final breaths, he might have said so?
Yeah, he would have had some things maybe to say.
Instead, he said, forgive them for they know not what they do.
There you go. It all makes sense in my head, but it is a lot to wrap your brain around when you have been trained your whole life in Christianity.
Yeah, so read Neil Klotz, read the Aramaic translations of things, read the Gnostic Gospels, get the New Testament, because that's super convenient. It's just in one big, beefy volume.
Right.
But read the Return to the Divine Sophia. Yes. There's a lot of good resources to help you understand, I think, what Jesus was hoping you understood.
Thank you for explaining that in a very easy way to understand for us, because I think some people talk in circles and we don't know what end is up when we're done. And we're like, I don't know, I'm just going to stick with what I know, with the Bible I know. But there are resources out there. And if you're in your spiritual journey, you're unraveling this and you're deconstructing and you want to connect with that divine love in a very pure way, this is what we have to do. Yeah, we got to get rid of the fear, because I don't believe that Jesus, God, the divine, are fear-based at all. It's just all love. And that's why you keep coming back and saying, love is the answer. Love is the answer.
And right? Embodying divine love on this planet is hard enough.
Oh my gosh.
Right?
Especially right now.
I mean, I remember my son just got engaged, and his beloved's father is a very dear Christian, pastor. And, and English is his second language. Anyway, and I met him at this engagement party, and I just said, the God that I'm in relationship with wouldn't require a blood sacrifice for any reason. And
what did he say to that?
And I said, and the teachings of Paul, a man that didn't know Jesus, didn't walk with Jesus. Like I don't frankly care what he says, right? So substitutionary atonement, that he died for your sins, that you have to proclaim him as your Lord and Savior, like all of the doctrine. I said, Jesus never said any of that. And he just looked at me, because he's not traditionally educated. It's not like he went to Harvard Divinity School or somewhere. Right. And his eyes just got so wide, and from such a dear, loving place. I mean, he's such a good man. He looked at me and he said, you've given me a lot to think about.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's wonderful that he responded in that way. Right? Instead of, trying to convert you, save you right then, disagree with No, he was open to it.
No, and after I showed him the cross on my chest, then, that's how my scar from the miracle, because I'm a living embodied miracle, which we could talk about. But, you show a man like that, the physical symbol that I have on my chest. And again, there's no rational explanation of why my scar, because it's a vertical cut.
Yeah. All right. So everyone's wondering right now. We got to hear about this scar. So you have this beautiful scar on your chest. So tell us about this scar.
Yeah. So it was December of 21. I had traveled to Joshua Tree to write Tragic Magic. And I always began with, prayer and meditation, sweet loving spirit, angels of love and light, my beloved Yeshua, Mary Magdalene, ancestors of the highest vibration and intention. I could go on. Anyway, just getting into that sacred place. And I would just hang out there before I would begin to write. And on this fateful night, all I heard very loudly was, you must urgently move home. Mm-hmm. And I know that voice, right? I know what the voice of God, Holy Spirit, in the traditional, I know what
sounds like for you.
I know what that sounds like for me and what the felt sense of it is. So I come out of meditation. I look on my phone to see if I have enough bars to make a phone call because I'm in the middle of the high desert. And I call a friend in St. Louis because, I was living literally on the beach of Monterey Bay in this gorgeous resort community. I'd built a life in Santa Cruz for 25 years. Home meant Missouri. Like, nobody wants to do that. Who wants to do that? Right. No. But I knew the truth of it. And I came out and made a couple of phone calls and flew out the next morning to see where God wanted me to be. And it wasn't St. Louis. I looked and I was like, no. And then I'm told Franklin County. And I don't even know what that means. So I tell my friend, the realtor, I said, God says Franklin County. So we broaden the search. I find my home where I now live. I've got 10 acres and there's a whole other miracle about how I found this place. But anyway, so within 3 months, I was here. Everybody thought I was cuckoo's Cocoa Puffs, and that was fine.
Yeah, like, where are you moving back to? Like,
I was teaching yoga on my back lawn, walking my beautiful land, remodeling this big building on my property for my yoga, or what I call come work on your shit center. And again, in meditation, this is now June of 22. Heeded the call in December, sold my beach house, got here by March. It's now early June. Again, in meditation, I'm told to urgently go to a doctor. I live in a small town. You can see a country doctor the next day. So I go on Google, I find a doctor, and you know what do doctors do? The first thing they do is they listen to your heart. And he listens to mine. He says, Regan, something's terribly wrong. So I was scheduled for an echocardiogram the next day. And then the day after that, June 5th, I learned I was dying and that I had a birth defect. I mean, I was born with a broken heart, which makes perfect sense. Didn't learn that until 55.
Right.
And my
it is broken.
Aortic valve was severely calcified. We didn't know how calcified yet. And the only solution was open heart surgery to replace my aortic valve. Well, Barnes Hospital in St. Louis, where I was born, where my older son was born, just happens to be top 3 places in the United States, if not the world, for aortic valve replacement.
Perfect. That's why you moved back.
Yeah. So then I had the surgery in July on a Friday morning. I was cleared from the ICU the following morning, which never happens. And I was home by Tuesday.
Oh my gosh.
And come Tuesday, my surgeon who runs all of it at Barnes, all of cardiothoracic surgery, his name is Ralph Damiano. He'd already told my husband and my kids this, but he said, Regan, there is no medical explanation of you. So typically, if you have less than 0.2 centimeters for blood to flow through the valve, it's considered not able to support life. And mine was less than that. And so in response, I said to him, well, I know the answer. Do you believe in Jesus Christ? He said, I do. I said, well, that's the only explanation I have. Because when I learned I was dying, in the time between learning I was dying and the surgery, and I had no fear of death because I knew I wasn't my body. I could leave it whenever I wanted, and I was completely surrendered. But I dug in. Like, I read the Gnostic Gospels over and over again. I was just trying as best I could to be in this conscious relationship with Yeshua and his teachings, right? Okay, so post-surgery, I almost die of heart inflammation. But I'm like, if I was supposed to be dead before, I'm not going to die of this. But I was in bed for almost 6 months. Muscles, everything had atrophied. And anyway, that's a whole process, which I hope people read about. But anyway, on the winter solstice in December, keep in mind, my surgery was in July, I knew I was healed. And I was having weekly blood draws for inflammation levels. Anyway, I knew I was better, and the blood work bared that out on the solstice. And then a few months later, I went to a funeral of a Christian mystic friend of mine, and it was Palm Sunday. And this is how Christian I am. I had to look on Google, what is Palm Sunday? Anyway,
Sunday.
Big day.
Big day.
And after his service, I just wanted to go to the beach. I was in Florida. And my husband had sweetly bought me swimming suits that had zippers so I could protect my scar. And I'm naked in the bathroom getting ready to put on my bathing suit. I'm like, my scar looks different. And I approached the mirror, and sure enough, it's so faint now. I mean, if you've ever seen an open heart surgery scar, they don't look like this.
I have. Yeah. Yeah. I'm sure it was more pronounced at that moment.
No, it's pretty faint. I healed pretty miraculously. Anyway, so I have this, symbol.
Just literally, you wake up after Palm Sunday with a cross on your chest. Literally.
Yeah. And when I showed it to my surgeon, it was quite dramatic. I was visiting with my cardiologist for my 6-month, appointment. And I just asked him, I said, is Dr. Damiano here? I just kind of sensed he was in the office. And he said, yes, he is. I said, I need to see him. So it turns out he's just right across the hall from where my room was. And he's in this room with all these other surgeons, and they're charting, and the vibe is quite serious. And I'm like, hey, Dr. D. I'm like, it's Regan. He looks at me and goes, oh my God, you look amazing. And I said, I have something to show you. And I bare my chest. And here's all of his, not all of his, but many of his surgeons in this room. And he's weeping, like tears are falling down his cheeks. And he brings and everybody's like, what's wrong with Dr. D? And they get up from their workstations and they're now encircling me. And he looks at them. He goes, have you ever seen anything like this?
No, because no cuts were made in that opposite direction, I'm assuming.
Well, he said it's another miracle, Regan, because it's a vertical cut.
Yeah. And they didn't do that. Nope.
No, and I even have a text from my surgical nurse, a woman named Andon, who I'm friends with from that day, which you can read about why that is. But anyway,
yes.
I mean, she said, Regan, we all knew something profound was happening in surgery that day.
They could feel it.
She said, I can't describe with words the impact of that experience on my own heart and life. Because, he had to scrape bone off my heart for almost 2 hours. And they all knew that there was no medical reason of how I was alive, much less teaching yoga or walking up a hill.
Because you weren't bedridden before that. You were out doing things and your heart was working just fine. No, all miraculous. Absolutely.
But my practice is bringing the love of God literally into my heart, right? I've been doing that since I was staff at the HeartMath Institute. That was a long time ago. That was in the 90s.
Yeah.
I'm going to be 59 in January. So that's a lot of time.
My story is not as miraculous as yours, but I'll just summarize that like a year ago, I had not passed any of my cardiac tests either. I had passed out. Nobody knew why. They were absolutely positive I had blockages, right? So I was going in to get, where they go in and if they need to do stenting or they see how closed up things are, they do it. And before it happened, I had done a lot of healing meditations. And then I had reached out to a lot of my friends who do energy healing and stuff and said, this is the exact time I'm going to be doing this. Everybody, let's all send healing energy at that exact moment. Anyway, and I had done a lot of healing meditations. And so we were going in and I said, oh, don't worry about it, girls. I was like, it's going to be a quick one. Everything's fine. And they're like, you can't run from your genetics and blah, blah, blah. They were all prepping me for the worst. And I said, no, it's going to be fine. And so my cardiologist is a woman too. And I told her that I went out, I woke up and everything had been flowing perfectly. Not one blockage, not one thing. She even said, I don't know how, but you can stop taking your baby aspirin. Literally, they didn't even want me taking that anymore. She's like, it's all flowing perfectly. You're good. And I was like, I tried to tell you guys we had worked on it, but it was the same kind of feeling I got where when I had focused on that divine love and healing and all of these things, I just knew everything was probably going to be fine. And then it was fine. So, I don't have a big cross on my chest, but I connected with when you told that story with like, no, we can ask for healing and heal our bodies. And the divine and our whole spirit team's here waiting for us. They're here with us at all times. If we just figure out how to access it and acknowledge it.
Well, and ask for their help because they won't get involved without your explicit permission. So good to ask.
That's the thing. We do kind of have to ask for the help and it has to be part of the life plan, don't you think?
Well, and we're here to suffer and to evolve.
That's the thing. We're here to suffer.
We're here and to evolve based on how we respond to our suffering.
Yes.
Like it's not about, escaping suffering. Like don't waste your time. You're not going to escape it. But when you learn what you need to from it, because it's the teacher.
Yes. And envelop it again, get back to that divine higher vibration love. That's the lesson, right?
Yeah. And to understand, you know, I always end my yoga classes when we're in Shavasana, and I have them kind of repeat this Kriya mantra. I'm not my body. I'm not even my mind. Because in the quiet, you realize that you are witnessing your body, right? You can witness sensation. Oh, like my hip's a little sore, you know, like whatever. You can witness the body, and you can also witness what's going on up there, all the thoughts, the monkey mind, as I call it. So if you can witness your mind and your body, then you're clearly not either. You're something else.
Correct. You're something else.
You're the witness, right? You're this divine, eternal energy, consciousness. So yeah, it's more about creating the inner conditions for all the things that are in the way of you understanding that truly, to not be in the way anymore.
Yeah. Because you talk about, I saw on your website, and this is as part of her coaching, some of the things you do, you had a whole thing about changing your vibration, change your life. So do you have just a couple tips on changing our vibration? Because it's really hard right now to stay in a high vibe, I feel like. But that is our job. Like even in meditation, I keep getting called to the fact that the only way we can combat all this is enough of us keeping the high vibration of divine love and not allowing our vibe to drop incredibly low, like a lot of things that are happening right now feel very low vibe. So how do we change our vibration?
Quickest way is gratitude. I mean, that's something that we proved out at HeartMath, right? Just the energetics, the energetic frequency, the actual frequency of love and gratitude, right? So, you know, maybe people have no idea what divine love is, and that's okay. Right. You're grateful for something. It could be something as simple as the love that you have for your pet. And so in the quiet, really not thinking about what you're grateful for, that's not going to get you there. That's not going to have any vibratory change on your system.
Okay.
It's the felt sense. It's the feeling of it, right? Joe Dispenza, who's really teaching HeartMath, it's about connecting to that elevated emotion.
So how do we get it from our mind, thinking about what we're grateful about, to drop into our heart space?
Yeah, sure.
And really feel it.
Close your eyes. Go ahead. Close your eyes.
Okay. Let's do it.
Put your hands over your heart. Take an inhale to a count of 5 through the nose and exhale to the same count. But as you do, try to direct the breath through the center of the chest where your hands are. So it's this heart-centered breath. Don't try too hard. Just try to create an easeful rhythm of breath. Now recall a moment in your life when you felt deep love, gratitude for someone or something. And beyond the image of that moment is how it felt. Re-experience that feeling. You remember that feeling. Re-experience it as sincerely as you can while continuing to breathe through the heart. When the mind interrupts, just reconnect to the heart-centered breath. Go back to that moment and reconnect to the feeling of the love that you've known.
Yes. And it is about getting quiet, isn't it?
Yeah.
So this just isn't about like throwing out a journal and writing down what I'm grateful for today. Okay. That's great. That helps you get ideas of what you can think about, right?
Yeah,
when you're doing
sure.
that.
Get your list, your buffet of moments, but understand that.
But then you have to feel it.
Yeah. And with every beat of your heart, right, you create an electromagnetic field of energy. It's in a torus shape. We proved all this out at HeartMath, right? So we're always broadcasting something energetically. So for your listeners who are so sure they're right and they're pissed off about X, Y, and Z, or they're, you know, just so focused on their perceived villains and all of it.
Because being judgmental is a very low vibration.
Well, guess what? You're contributing. You're the problem. So we all need to figure out how to be the solution, which has everything to do with the energetics of love, broadcasting that. And by the way, newsflash, that's what Yeshua was teaching, right?
There you go. Boom.
Love your God with all your heart. So that's the source of the energy, ideally, that you're working with. Love your God with all your heart. Bring that in. Love your neighbor as yourself, meaning there is no separation.
No, because if there's this oneness, if there's this divine love and this oneness, amongst all of us, love our God is loving everyone, literally.
Even the bad guys.
Because even the bad guys have that divine piece of God in there, right? And so the only way we can combat, especially all this craziness going on in the world right now, we have to keep our vibe high. We have to keep that divine love and vibration high. That's all we can do.
Just do your best. But what I would also say, after my awakening, like literally the day after, I was told two things very specifically that were like, okay. I was told, eat only organic food and disconnect from all media.
Well, that makes a lot of sense, especially number 2.
Particularly now, because it's all a manipulation. It's all on purpose. It's all by design.
It is. And it feels very toxic because everyone is taken a side on everything. And it's like, why are we letting this tear us apart into sides? We all need to come together in divine love. It's just hard.
Well, it's hard in the absence of a practice. Like, you'll never do it. And it is a real spiritual war. Don't think that it's not. I mean, there is real.
So you're getting downloads. Are you currently getting downloads and all this too? Yeah. Like, are you getting things coming through all your meditation? And so the message, what else you got? You got any more good downloads for all of us as we're trying to deal with everything?
Nothing is what you think it is.
That makes sense. I think what we're seeing can't possibly be even close to all the truth. Everything is.
And, we're being consciously poisoned. Most of what is sold in a typical grocery store should be illegal,
especially in the U.S.
Really, I mean, almost everywhere now, because we've exported it all, right? It's all over the place.
So we need to take care of our bodies, this vessel that we're in for this lifetime.
And by the way, like the actual frequency of a television is apathy. So turn the damn thing off. I mean, I had to announce a couple of weeks ago, because it was a God directive, to get off all social channels.
That's what you were saying in your email to me.
So,
so you just got directed.
Yeah, 2 weeks ago. Because again, after my awakening, I didn't have a television for 15 years. I remember when a neighbor had to come to my home to tell me that 9/11 had happened, because they knew I wouldn't know.
Because you were disconnected. Yep. And that has probably allowed you to stay in a better vibration, honestly.
Yeah. And I mean, meditation. My best friend's is a product manager for the Halo, which is a personal electromagnetic frequency machine. So if your listeners have the means to, buy one of those.
Listen, I've heard
buy one of those.
It's usually the Halo machine. And is this like what does this look like? Because I'm seeing a lot of this coming through for me right now
coil.
too.
It looks like a big coil. You place it. A lot of professional athletes use it for physical recovery, but they can't market it maybe as a spiritual machine. But there are some.
No, but it does emit an energy frequency.
Well, many. It's the only one that is able to actually emit multiple frequencies simultaneously. But there are like bee's knees on the Halo, love, meditation is a frequency. There's all these frequencies. So if you can, buy one of those, or find if they're in your community. Like I have one at my yoga center and people come and use it. Or there's another technology called EES. So Jason Shurka, who you might know, he funded basically the proliferation of this EES technology. So that's, again, an energetic frequency technology. You go into this room and lie down or sit down for an hour, and it just emanates high frequency. So that's a good thing to do.
I love that you're saying all this, because I have just been researching all of these different things that you can get into your home to emit proper frequencies for healing, for love, for all of these things. So, and there's getting to be more and more on the market. So that's getting confusing for us.
The Halo's the best one. Don't mess with any.
The Halo's the best
and that's
one.
HAELO. And I'm not, I don't work for them. It's just some.
Same. I don't either, you guys listening. We're not making money off this, is what I'm saying. I have been researching this because I have been called to think that this is a great idea. because I already do my grounding sheets and all kinds of other stuff. But I was like, oh, I need to look into this. And I brought with me through Egypt this organite, this man-made unlight. It's okay, like this little energy thing. And I loved it. I mean, I literally like hid it stuffed in my bra everywhere I went. And so I'm like, no, I need to get more into that. Like I did feel connected when I was there and got downloads that I needed to worry about my vibration and my surroundings a lot more.
Well, don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. Just tend to it.
Because that's a low vibe. I get it. Just tend to it. Yeah, I'm not freaking out about it. I just been starting to go down the rabbit hole of researching all these things to see which one resonates with me, like to use. Because there's people building big old pyramid structures with all this stuff to put over your bed. I mean, like there's a lot of stuff out there. So I go down the rabbit hole and I get a little bit confused. So I'm just trying to clarify. Okay, Halo, I'm going to be looking that up.
You don't live that far away. Why don't you drive and come and spend the day at my yoga center, and I'll get you on the Halo so you can feel it.
No, we got to get on the Halo. Okay, no, I got more trips to take. I love it. Okay, because let's talk a little bit about what you offer. Because if you guys are listening right now and you're needing help, and we've talked a million times about how we can do these things alone, but why? Why not get help by people who have been on this path longer than us, have learned some things, and can help us through? So tell us a little bit about your coaching.
Yeah, I'm actually...
What makes it different than just a plain old life coach?
I'm rethinking it, frankly.
Oh, you are?
I am. Okay. And here's why. God has directed me, like, the best thing I can do is just travel, embodying what I embody, and be an agent of healing that way, right? That's the purest, cleanest way, is just to embody what I do and share it. I have found with most of my clients, and I don't really know how to solve for this because my time, is precious.
Yeah.
Most people aren't really ready, for the discipline that this process with me really requires. It doesn't mean that if people reach out to me through my website and they schedule a discovery call with me, it doesn't mean I won't, but I just want them to really be honest about their readiness. Like I had a new client.
Okay, when you say honest about your readiness, what does that mean? Where do we need to be in this readiness place?
Be ready to realize that what's required of you, it's not easy, right? And so I want to share, all of my tools. I want the energetics of me to be sort of this healing tonic for the world.
So it sounds like, are you heading in the direction of more retreats? Are you heading more in the direction of
or just
little things like that?
Being somewhere, sitting under a tree, and the energetics of me draws people to me, and we just sit and have a conversation. I mean, most of what I do here is, an act of service. So I would like people to buy my book because there's a lot of practices in there that can be useful to them. I do have curriculum that I will be putting online by the spring of next year, which is my Ready to Awaken curriculum that I teach face to face. I'm just trying to figure out, how to better scale my wisdom.
Yes. You're looking to open up to spread your vibration to a larger audience without taking up more of your precious time.
Right.
Yeah. So you need some retreats or something where you just, like you said, plant yourself, let everybody know where you'll be. And then we all just sit around and absorb your energy and your wisdom.
And then look, I have this beautiful place. I'm going to turn my computer around.
Lord, look at this place. Okay, so people need to start coming to you. And it's not just about yoga. Am I right?
Well, it is. It is. But most people think yoga is the physical practice. There's 8 limbs in yoga. Asana, the physical practice, is one. And probably the only point, in the tradition for asana, the physical practice, is to create the conditions for meditation.
Okay.
So, even as we're talking, I'm thinking, I need to utilize this space more and have people come here more often, and not just in my little town, right? Draw people from all over the world it's a beautiful, Missouri's gorgeous. Most people don't realize that. So yeah, maybe I need to just have more people come this way.
More people come, more retreats at your place. Okay. So it sounds like what we need to do, you guys, is 1, order the book and read it because you're going to get a lot of knowledge out of that. 2, sign up on her website so you get notified when all this is going down, right?
Yeah. And I do write a monthly newsletter. And what I'd also like people to do, because this is a new directive, is follow me on Substack. I'm not charging. So it's Regan Caruthers 1 on Substack. And I've posted maybe 4 or 5 essays so far because it's just quieter in Substack. It feels more sacred to me. There's lots of social features.
Because social media is very toxic.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of social features in Substack that I'm not using. I'm just having ideally people subscribe to my Substack and then to read my writing and to reflect on it. And then my Living the Principles online course, I think could be very useful. Just haven't done that yet. But in my inner life coaching, so much of the content that I have developed becomes part of that process.
Yes.
But everything is customized. I don't pre-bake what if you were going to be coached by me. Yeah.
We got to get the book. And she's saying she has different practices in the book. And so just to close, I want to read one.
No.
Listen, on page 29, it says, as I approach my 57th birthday, I use this prayerful affirmation every day. Then she's got this affirmation. I think it's a really great one because sometimes we struggle with what to say, right? I don't know what to say when I'm close my eyes or whatever. So it's written right here for you guys. So you can just implement this in your little daily lives. Okay. So she says, I open myself to my highest knowing, to my highest expression. I ask for help from my angels, guides, and ancestors to give me the insights, resources, and experiences to experience my highest good and to be an agent of divine love. I radiate this feeling of love to all the unhealed places within me. So just something as simple as starting a practice like this, right? Just dropping into prayer meditation and just saying these things to your spirit team can be so helpful. And there's so much more. You guys, there's so much good stuff in this book. We touched on some of her story and that, but there's so much in there. Yeah, you're going to want to read that whole thing. You're going to want to get in there and see what you connect with in the book, because like you said, our traumas may not be exactly the same, but we all have them and we're all having to overcome them, especially here in midlife when we're trying to transform and grow and get back on the spiritual path we had planned on doing in this lifetime that we may have veered off.
Well,
right? We may have veered off.
But we do have eternity to figure it out. There is that.
We do. But it'd be nice if we could kick out a couple lessons in this one, right?
Well, yeah. I mean, it's a big universe. This is a very difficult place to incarnate to.
I'm thinking, yep.
So I would like, when I take my last breath, ideally not coming back. I'd like to go other places.
I've had a lot of people tell me this. This is my last lifetime on earth. I'm done. I've had it. It's like,
if they're saying it that way, newsflash, they're coming back.
No, they're coming back. I've said that. I have a friend who I'm like, girl, everything you just said means you're coming back. Yeah. You haven't learned it all yet here. I'm sorry.
But just to come back, purely not because there's any lessons left, but to just be an agent of God's love, I could come back for that.
I think a lot of us are here right now for that, right? I think some people might be back this time right now for that reason, for the changes happening right now.
Oh, absolutely.
And to absolutely be a part of that higher vibration of God's divine love right now in these times we're in.
Yeah. Yeah. So. And it's going to get weirder. Just newsflash, everything is going to get even stranger and darker. So find your way to committed practice. And if I can help, wonderful. Not that I'm close to that, but none of it'll change until you do. One person at a time.
Absolutely. Yeah. I have a little thing I look at everyone that says, change your thoughts, change your world. Yep. It's all our own thoughts and our own perception.
Yeah. The thoughts aren't you can't do the kind of alchemy that we've talked about on this podcast today at the level of the mind. That's just not where the transformation happens.
No, it's like we talked about. We got to take it from our mind and drop it into our heart space.
Well, just, the energy, energy. And just, you learn this It's one of the laws of physics, the law of resonance. Energy can't be created or destroyed. And, like energy, is attracted, right? That's resonance, law of resonance.
Yep.
So if you find yourself constantly in a chaotic circumstance, can you create more coherence within your own heart? And then you can draw energetically to you more coherent people, more coherent experiences.
Yep. All right. Like we said, we got to clean out all the junk first so we have room for all this divine. So I don't know where you friends listening are in your journey right now. You might be in that dark night of the soul. I don't know. You may have come out the other side, or you may just be starting your work, right? You may just be starting to dig those things up. But regardless of where you're at, this is totally doable for us.
Absolutely. If I can do it, anybody can do it.
Once you read this book of all she's been through, and I will testify to it myself too, when you've been through a lot of shit, because I have too, you can still come out the other side. You can still reframe, heal, and bring that light back out into the world. Absolutely. All right. We got some work to do. That's what I'm hearing. Get some retreats going.
Yeah, I'll do that.
Where we can all hang out and feel our energy together. I love a good group of people, especially like a group of women that come together. It's really powerful. I just got back from Egypt with a group of 16 women, and it was powerful.
I bet.
Yeah, it was amazing. I'm still processing. I can't even share everything yet, but it was an amazing trip, and just the power of coming into community with a bunch of like-minded women that are all on this spiritual journey at different levels was very empowering. So you need to do that. You got to get us all together.
Okay. All right.
We got to get together.
Yeah, maybe I'll do it. Maybe I'll do something in the spring.
Yeah, there you go. When you're getting ready to launch, I'll have everything else. Let's just, go big. Just go big and launch a bunch of shit, please. No, we need it. We need it right now, bad. Okay. Well, thank you so much. I appreciate this. And maybe you'll have to come back after you launch all this stuff so we can hear more about the program and what you're offering coming up. Okay, perfect. All right, you guys are going to order the book and you're going to follow her so you can get the newsletters and hear all the amazing things she has coming up. And if you are feeling like a really, really strong pull to her right now and, it's resonating,
please reach out.
Just reach out.
Absolutely.
To her. Just reach out. She's not saying she's not here to help those who really resonate and are ready for this journey. I think you still have some people that you can help. All right, you guys. Thank you so much, Regan. I'm excited. Everything is in the show notes, you guys. All the links to all the good stuff we've been talking about. Reach out to her, reach out to me. Just reach out. There's help out there. Don't do it alone.
Yeah, definitely.
Thanks, Regan.
Thank you.
Listen, I know your time is valuable. And right now, I'm feeling super grateful and totally humbled that you chose to hang out with me today. If this podcast resonates with you, could you do me a solid and hit that subscribe or follow button? That's going to help you out because you're never going to miss an episode. And it helps me out because you're never going to miss an episode. And if you have 30 seconds more, could you leave a 5-star rating and maybe leave a kick-ass review? Thank you so much, and I can't wait to continue our journey on the next episode. Oh, and I can't forget the fine print. The legal jargon. This podcast is presented solely for educational and entertainment purposes. We're just two friends on this journey together, and this podcast is not intended as a substitute for the advice of a physician, professional coach, psychotherapist, or any other qualified professional. You get it. See you next time.